Hello everybody, my name is Coolblood. I'm bringing out this video of me talking about some technology stuff, and today I'll be talking about my Raspberry Pi lab in a box. So let me go ahead and get our music started. Assume I'm connected. Okay, cool. Alright, let me go ahead and get our music started in the background, and then we'll move on from there. Cool. So as far as everything goes with this box, this is a portable box. This is version 4. This is a upgrade from the previous one, which was a smaller box, as you can see here. And one second. There we go. Sorry. This is an iteration of a smaller box, which you can see here. And this one's about maybe twice as small as the other one. So this one's like twice as big, I should say. In the footprint of everything, it's just a little bit taller than this one is. It's 2.5. I don't know. Kind of how you will. But the general idea is that inside of this box, I have 8 single board computers inside of there. Plus, I also have a router and 2 power banks, and the power banks that I'm using are these 65 watt hour power banks, 30,000 milliamps. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump inside the box. So inside the box here, you have a rat's nest of stuff. I'm just gonna kind of give us a few angles so you can kind of see the dimensionality of everything. There are some bits of information, but no worries. I'll try to give as detailed of a tour as I can without tearing the box apart, because I really don't want to take it apart. It took me a little bit to kind of get it all settled, and it's finally settled. So let me turn this light on I have over here. It's just a little extra light so we can kind of see what's going on in there. And let me switch over to our other camera. There we go. Alright, should be good enough. So what we have here is we have the travel router. This travel router is going to put it as high up as I could. This is a GLNet, probably can't see it. Yeah, GL-iNet router, and it's a travel router powered by USB type, micro USB, sorry. And I guess it's not that relevant, but still, I just want to mention it. And then under this, you have a Raspberry Pi 4. This Raspberry Pi 4 here has a power bank that's attached to it. More specifically, it has UPS, I should say, that's attached to it. And if you want to know the parts that I have inside this box, I do have all the links that I could try to provide for the major components in the description, so please check that out if you want to see exactly what it is. But it's powered by 2 32 milliamp hour power cells, and that's connected directly into the Raspberry Pi 4 down here with this cable right there. And just to show you that, trying to get my light position so we can actually see in there. So yeah, so it's connected down there at the very bottom. Anyway, all right, cool. Too many details. And then going from there, besides the Raspberry Pi 4 that we have a Raspberry Pi 02W here. This Raspberry Pi 02W is held in by a command strip. So command strips are a big theme inside this box. But under that Raspberry Pi 02W, we have 3 Raspberry Pi Zeros. So 3 Raspberry Pi Zeros under it. They have their own little heatsink case, and it's really difficult to kind of see those because they're really tucked down at the bottom. But they are at the very bottom of the box. Just once again, trying to give you guys some dimensions so you can actually see what the depth is. They're basically at the bottom. And then next to that, we have a power hub that I had to modify the cable for to connect into the USB power banks down at the bottom. Speaking of which, there's 2 USB power banks at the bottom. Once again, this is the same power bank. This power bank is very convenient because it has 4 USB Type A connections, and it has a USB Type C connector that I can use to power or to charge the power bank, and also it has pass-through power, which is useful, meaning that I can charge the power bank and power everything without disturbing it. And also I can I can disconnect charging for the power bank without causing a surge or interrupting anything, and I also plug in the same thing without causing a surge or disrupting anything. And it has a nice little display that shows its status. But there's 2 of those at the very bottom, and the reason why there's 2 is because there's I think there's 10 things in the box total that need power. 3 Raspberry Pi Zeros, 2 Raspberry Pi 02Ws, so this one and this one over here is a 02W. And let me switch over to my other camera because it should be, I can zoom in, but I don't want to. I'll just keep it on this camera. 2 02Ws. I have a Raspberry Pi 4 inside of there. I have a Orange Pi, which is back here. So an Orange Pi 02 right over there in the back. Nice, command strip to the back of the box there. And then I have a Radix 0, I think is what's called. The Radix 0 is also right here right here, which once again, just make sure we can actually see right there. And that's all kind of command stripped on the side. Also, I had the passwords for the devices, most of the devices, taped on there, so that's why I've covered it up with tape so I didn't accidentally, you know, show my passwords. Anyway, so over here we have a nest of cables. These cables are connected to the power banks, and they allow me to charge the power bank without having to dig them out every single time. So these are, you know, when I'm charging, these are out and plugged in, and these will allow me to feed power through USB Type-C to the power banks. I also have a power brick that I keep in here. I have not had to use it yet because I haven't really been super ultra mobile with this particular build. But did I say power bank? Sorry, I meant to say power plug, wall connector. You know what I mean. But I can connect both the USB Type-Cs into here and then plug into the wall. I just need the USB Type-C cables. I guess I should put those in here. And then on the wall over here, I have a billion buttons. So the story behind all this with the buttons is that the power banks themselves, they detect that something needs power, they'll start sending out power. If they detect nothing needs power, they'll stop sending out power, they'll turn off. So what I had to do was I had to essentially either shut down all the devices and then kind of turn them back on manually, or get a power button somehow. So I settled on getting the power button. There's two power switches. What's the best way I can do this? Sorry, this is difficult trying to get light in there. Sure. I have two power switches down at the bottom where the light's kind of covering up a little bit. And then I have 6 power buttons. The reason why I got switches and buttons originally was because I wanted the hub here that's connected to the Raspberry Pi Zeros to have a switch instead of a button, but honestly it didn't matter because I usually turn the whole lab on or the whole lab off, so it didn't matter that much. There's also buttons over there. So let's go and get everything powered up, and while we get everything powered up, I'll talk about some other features that are very important for this box. More specifically, the airflow situation, because one concern that viewers might have, that you guys might have, that I had, was how do I get air into this box? Because I'm kind of relying on the low power requirements, if you will, for the Raspberry Pis, but they do also generate quite a bit of power, heat, I should say. And because they generate a little bit of heat, especially this travel router does get a little warm. I had to figure out a solution to basically get air into it. Also, you can see the power banks right there. And this lunchbox was perfect for it because in the front it has this nice zipper pouch. And what I can do with that, or what I did with that, was I basically cut a hole into the plastic liner here and into the bag, and I put 220mm fans. Those 120mm fans, they originally had something that was a little bit more tuned towards high airflow, so it's a little bit louder, but I decided to replace that with 2 Noctua fans instead. So I do have 2 Noctua fans. Once again, in the description I'll have the exact models in there, and that's kind of pulling in fresh air here. Yes, they're not as intense with pulling in power, pulling in air I should say, but they are very quiet, and there's enough air to kind of keep everything cool enough. So they're pulling in fresh air towards here. And the cool thing about this is that there's this little flap on the top for this lunchbox that's supposed to be for people, you know, grabbing a quick soda or something. You can pull out from the top. And I made like a little kickstand out of Velcro and some of the plasto lights, which I'll talk about more in a second. So we can kind of keep it propped up. So you can kind of sit there somewhat inconspicuously. I guess if somebody sees a lunchbox sitting there with the top propped up, they might get a little suspicious, but I'm not trying to do anything like super hacker or anything like that. I'm just doing it for my studies, which I'll show a little bit towards the end of this video, what I'm actually using it for. I can also feed the charging cables through it and keep this kind of propped up in the corner. And I got a lab in a box. So I have 8 single board computers that have reasonably good airflow, 2 power banks inside of there. I can also see the power status of them down there, like so. And that was one of the things I really wanted to do, is make sure that I can actually see the power levels of the power banks. So that was a little bit difficult to kind of engineer, but I figured it out. And then also to make sure I had everything in there so we can have enough airflow from the fans. Because as you can see here, speaking a little bit more detail about the build, switch back over to the other camera. These ridges that we have in here, these are from what's called Plastolite and bobby pins, basically. So Plastolite, or plastic light, I don't know how to pronounce it, but this stuff is kind of like a corrugated plastic. It has grooves like so, and it's pretty structurally, like, you know, significant. I think it's the same thing you see in for sale signs or yard sale signs or stuff like that. And I use bobby pins to kind of connect it like so, and just essentially just kind of, you know, putting the stuff in here and then like cutting it to size and then just getting it to where I need it to be. So that was very useful. I talk about it every time I can because it's just such a cool such a cool thing for a creator, or you know, just kind of doing some creative projects like this. And you know, me not having a 3D printer, I don't think I'll have one anytime soon. That's actually very useful. But that goes a long way to say that, yeah, all these are in here for support. This is all, relatively speaking, pressure fitted in here. Yes, I do have components that are kind of you know, command stripped to the wall, but this is all floating. It's like a floating structure. And I'm mostly okay with that because I feel like it's structurally safe enough. Like I'm not just taking this box and throwing it around or anything. The most I do is like kind of turn it on the side and turn it around and maybe turn it upside down. But what I've done, besides have hair in there, my own hair, which I guess nobody knows until I point it out, is I try to cut holes into the structure to where I didn't need to have like a full wall, so I can allow a little bit more airflow to reach things. Because like this Orange Pi Zero back here, it doesn't really get much airflow. It kind of just sits back there. I mean, I don't use it too much, and it's only 1 gig of RAM, so I can't do a ton of things with it. I guess I could stress test it if I wanted to, but that's not the point. The point I'm trying to bring up is that I tried to cut in little holes where I could to improve the airflow. Like there's another hole over here to help improve the airflow. Cut a little small hole over there. Yeah, just do what I can, help with the airflow. So far, it hasn't complained too much. Like it's been relatively smooth going with this particular box. So I'll give it the credit where the credit's due. The fans, having two 120mm fans that are gigantic, relatively speaking. Blowing fresh air through all this has been pretty good, so that's been pretty nice. And get a little kickstand going. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just kind of show, just give a use case of what I do with this particular box or what I'm doing with it. I'm currently doing my studies for schooling, to kind of just learn a little bit more about, you know, advance my knowledge in the tech field and all this other fun stuff. But let me switch over to my tablet. I think. There we go. So switching over to my tablet, I use a few different programs to SSH, because essentially what I do is I connect. Oh, actually, sorry, I need to connect. Let me do that. I forgot I had to switch my Wi-Fi because I turned it off. All right, let me switch over to the Wi-Fi. While I'm doing that, this build has gone through a few different iterations. The idea, like this current version of the box, is what I ideally wanted from the beginning. I wanted to have like a little portable lab that I can carry with me, take around with me, play around with it, you know, just do some fun stuff. Maybe one day make a web server inside of there that I can kind of carry around with me for events, or maybe make it multi-purpose. Maybe I could have a Raspberry Pi 4 in there. So I could do something like Recall Box or some kind of emulation if I wanted to. The world is my oyster, essentially. I'm only limited by my own imagination, intuition, and desire to actually sit down and program or code a thing. So all that goes along when I say that, yeah, I can do a whole bunch if I wanted to. But for right now, I'm just trying to do orchestration and automation just to get to the point. And orchestration and automation is essentially just, you know, typing a thing on one computer to make other computers do a thing, essentially. So inside of Juice SSH, I do have my devices here. I have a few different things I'm going to connect to. I'm just going to connect to the Black Box Pi. The Black Box Pi is the Raspberry Pi 4 that I have in there. And that Raspberry Pi 4 is going to be kind of the workhorse for now. The Skull Pi is one of the Raspberry Pi 0 2Ws, but essentially, I'm going to connect to the Black Box Pi, and I'm now SSH into the Black Box Pi, and I have not tested this on this specific device that I'm on, so bear with me here while I try to see if I can do this. Well, first let me just prove that I can reach everything. So, and so I made a folder for Ansible because I'm using Ansible for my orchestration stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run the test one, which I think is this new file. Let me see. Yeah, okay, this is the perfect one. All right, so this is nano for the new file. I'm going to go Skelly 1. Is it Skelly? Skelly 1. Skelly 0. So Skelly is a name that I have for the one of the Raspberry Pi 02Ws and all three of the Raspberry Pi Zeros. So Skelly 0, Skelly 1, Skelly 2, and Skelly 3. Named Skelly after the very first iteration, which was in a pencil box that had a skull in it, which is why I called Skull Network and Skull this and blah. I thought it was adorable, so I just kept going with it. But anyway, run this command is going to affect only Skelly 0, assuming that I run it correctly. So Ansible playbook. Oops, new. So I'm going to run that, and what's going to happen is it's going to send a command, or it's going to use the things that I have configured. It's going to reach out to the Skelly 0 that I have in there, assume I typed in the right name, and it's going to ping it. So it's going to gather facts about it, which is what Ansible does first, and then it does the actual pinging, and then afterwards it says, hey, I finished. So just to kind of prove that I can reach out to all the devices, I'm going to change this from Skelly 0 to Skelly. Skelly is what I have a name for the group, the whole group of 0, 1, 2, and 3. All four of those devices, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So I'm just going to name that Skelly, and then I'm going to run Ansible. Same thing, just a ping is going to reach out to 4 devices instead of just 1 now, because I changed the host to Skelly, and you'll see 4 different devices show up in here. And then, like I said, the point of me showing this is just to kind of show what use I have for this. Because at the end of the day, hey, why, Cool Blue, why would you spend all that time and money in trying to put in these very weak, relatively speaking, devices that can do a lot if you put your mind to it? But, why don't you just get a laptop? And the reason why I didn't want to get a laptop is because I want to practice this. Yes, I can do this with virtualization. Yes, I can do this with VMs. But I want to do it this way. Because maybe one day I want to do the GPIO stuff, but I don't know. Alright, so that ran perfectly, and finally let me do this. And yes, I'm using Nano instead of using Vim. I will use Vim eventually, but for now I'm using Nano. So there you go. Okay, so I'm gonna run it again. So I said all, so it's gonna do the same ping for the same playbook that I just did, but it's gonna ping every single device that I have in here. It's gonna ping the Raspberry Pi 4, it's going to ping the Raspberry Pi 02W, the Orange Pi, the Rock Pi, or the Radix, and the other 02W, and the other 3 zeros. So you should see 4 devices show up here with the successful pings. So Skelly 0 is part of the cluster, Skull Pi is the original Raspberry Pi 02W, Skelly 1 through 3 are the zeros, Orange Pi is the Orange Pi, Black Box Pi is the Raspberry Pi 4, and for some reason the Rock Pi failed. I have to investigate that later. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is we see 8 things here. Yes, 1 thing failed, but we see 8 things here, and I gotta troubleshoot that. But this is the fun. I get to go in and figure out what's going on with it. Why did it break? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? So yeah, so that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't really have much else to show outside of just this small, but I think mighty demo. And of course, this small and I think mighty box that I have here with all this stuff. And yes, I'm using a fancy tablet to connect into it, but I can also, if I wanted to, connect in a monitor to the Raspberry Pi 4 that's in there, because there's just enough space for me to kind of snake in a cable. Where's my light? There it is. So if we bring our light in here and move this out of the way, and I guess switch back over. Oh. Camera. Sorry, there we go. So if you're looking over to the side here, if my focus can find its place, it had it for a second, but I messed it up. There we go. So in the corner down there, and by down there I mean down here in the corner, I can see the I/O for the Raspberry Pi 4 because that's where the power is, and right next to it should be DisplayPort 1, DisplayPort 2. So that goes a long way to say that I could connect in a cable to put a monitor into this. I just think a monitor would be a big drain on the battery. I mean, this whole lab itself doesn't drain the battery a ton. I mean, if I keep it running all day, of course it's going to drain the battery. But, with 65 watt hours times 2, what is that? 130. And I don't know what's connected to what. I forgot what's connected to what. I didn't document it, so I got to go back and figure out which ones are connected to which power banks, and it's going to be a nightmare. It's a rat's nest in there already. It's going to be more of a rat's nest once I put the labels. Like, I had the Pi 4 labeled at least over there. But what I'm trying to emphasize is that depending on what my power budget is, I might not want to put a monitor in there, but I could. And I think that'll be like a neat thing, especially if I can get like a small monitor. Actually, I already have a small monitor, but I could put like a small monitor to be the kickstand So instead of having like this little kickstand here, what I would do instead would be to put a small monitor that can kind of sit under here reliably and just kind of, you know, fold in when this is all closed. So I fold in when this is all closed, and when I'm ready to use the lab, I can kind of pop up the monitor all, you know, tech bro-like, kind of like, like have it all connected to Raspberry Pi 4 or something, and have a little keyboard down and type and do my hacking thing. I think it would be cool. Yeah, it would be cool. But in this current iteration, I like it. I like the portability of it. I like the fact that, yes, I have to use a tablet to connect to it, but it's all there. And if I wanted to, I could connect to the Raspberry Pi 4 and do some stuff. So there's a whole bunch to like about this box. Also, one of the last things, and I guess it's kind of a secret, but I guess I'll mention it because I found this very useful. I have 8 devices in here, actually 10 devices in here, but 9 that I need to log into. So if I ever forget the password, it's going to be a nightmare to recover, especially if I have to pull out the Raspberry Pis and do recovery that way or reflash them. I don't want to talk about the idea of having to reflash anything. I'm just going to assume that all is going to stay in there forever. But over here to the sides, I have, what I did was and I'll try to position this to where you don't see the passwords. There we go, sure. Over here to the sides, I have the name of the device, the user, and the SSH, sorry, the IP address, and then the password over here, which my finger's covering. And I had that on this side for 4 of the components, and this side for the other 4, and the router has its own down there. But the idea is that if I don't use this lab for like 6 or 7 months and I come back, I want to be able to remember the passwords. And it's not the most safe way to do things, but it's a lab. I don't really care about what. I hope I don't lose this, and I hope I don't lose possession of this. But if it does, you know, it gets stolen or something, or falls into disrepair, I'm not too concerned about the data in there. I'm concerned about the investment of the box, yes. But that goes a long way to say that that's been very useful, because there was one time where I forgot the password for one of the devices, and I was able to just kind of peek over here and say, oh, that's the password. Okay, cool. All right, so that's pretty much it for the entire box. Once again, this box, just to go over the components list, we have a GL iNet router that's here, kind of the star of the show, top, front, and center. We have a Raspberry Pi 4 down here, which is the black box Pi that I connected to. We have a 02W. We have 2 02Ws, one there, one there. This one's in a Flirk case, this one's in a case. And then we have 3 Raspberry Pi Zeros down there, and some generic heatsink cases. And then we have a Radix 4 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of storage device there. I think it's a Radix 0. Actually, I have it written down. Radix 0 is what it's called. And then finally we have the Orange Pi, which is hiding back there. So the Orange Pi 02. And that's all. Oh, also 2 power banks, sorry. I can't forget about the power banks, they're very important. So 2 power banks down there, kind of getting everything through, and then the fans keeping it all cool. So overall, pretty comprehensive box, in my humble opinion, and I do appreciate it quite a bit. But I will continue to tinker around with it. I will continue making improvements as I can, and I could theoretically add some more stuff in there if I could figure out how to power it. But right now, I'm happy with what I got. You know, I got a lot on my hands with the orchestration and all that fun stuff, because you know, it's helping out with my classes, but I have to sit down and play around with it. Anyway, enough of me rambling. That's it for this video. Definitely let me know in the comments what y'all think of this build, especially compared to the other ones. I do kind of miss the smallness, the compactness of this box, but just the number of features that this box now has, this new box has, I'm just like, you know, blown away by it every time I use it. I'm always like happy that I have what I have and I can do what I can do. If I wanted to, I can put another router in there too, have 2 networks. That was a consideration for me at one point if I want to buy another router, but I don't think I want to. But yeah, the world is endless. And also there's a good bit of space left. I mean, I kind of like the amount of space left for airflow purposes. But also, I mean, if I really want to pack everything in there tightly, I could definitely fit more stuff. The question becomes, how do you power it? That's where you start splitting hairs with how you power stuff. So anyway. Alright, thank you all very much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. And like I said in the comments, let me know what you all think of the box. What things would you put in the box if you made one yourself? Are you going to make one yourself? And if so, what things you're going to put in it? And hope you all enjoyed it. And as always, I will see you all whenever.